Many thanks for joining in, everyone. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sheon Okinbaloye in Abuja, the nation's capital. Welcome, everyone. It's a fast-paced program tonight, so stick with us and let's get started. Let's make a quick stop in Ekiti State, where the people of the state are preparing for the local government elections in the state. This time around, the People's Democratic Party in the state is holding its primary. And this is the style the party says it wants to use in conducting the primary. It's the open ballot system of an election. It's popularly called the option A4. The party says it wants to be transparent and be straightforward in all its dealings, especially at this stage of this election. The governor of the state, Ayodele Fayose, believes option A4 system is best for Nigeria's electoral process.
If only we choose to be sincere. Option A4 produced Abiola, made a success of that election. But the problem we have in Nigeria is leaders don't want a transparent process. They want a way to fiddle with the process when they cannot win. That's why.
Well, now, this is not our major story for the day, but is it interesting because the story keeps evolving. We keep tracking as well. Do you remember the senator from Bauchi State, Senator Issa Misal, who was on Sunday Politics about 2 months ago? He was here with allegations against the police. We have brought the senator and the first public relations officer here on the show, right here in this studio. It was a very hot debate as allegations were flying from both sides of the room. But after their appearance on this show, the police commission confirmed that the senator actually followed due process when he retired. So that bit was arrested, clearing the senator of the accusation of being a deserter. Now to the senator's allegations against the police and the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris. Let's do a checklist. He alleges that the IGP makes up to 10 billion naira monthly from oil companies, banks, and private individuals who enjoy special protection from the security agencies. That you have heard before. He said that the IGP engages in promotion racketeering at the commission. That you have heard too. The senator reeled out allegations of fraud and nepotism against the force. That you have heard, also heard. All of those, are babies to the strong words of the senator when he was describing to his colleagues the level of corruption in the police. The accusations are weighty like the ones mentioned earlier. This time, with a lot of details that are better left to the senator to express by himself. Watch.
The IG is openly having two relationships with policewomen, which he promoted them openly under this special promotion. One of them is Amina, and one of them is DSP Asta, which the IG on 15th of last month, he got married to that woman DSP. And under Police Act and Regulation, you cannot marry a serving woman police unless if that woman retired. And he quickly did a secret wedding. This secret wedding in Kaduna because the lady is pregnant, 4 months pregnant. This one is verified. I'm saying it. Mr. President.
Well, now the Senate has set up an 8-man ad hoc committee to investigate allegations of corruption brought against the Inspector General of Police, IGP Ibrahim Idris. The Senate also mandated its Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public petitions to investigate police allegations against Senator Misal and present its findings to the House. Obviously, the last has not been heard of this. We'll keep you posted as events unfold. Now, from one allegations to another, Nigeria's Petroleum Corporation, the NNPC, is not new to spotlights. Neither is a ministry it is attached to the Ministry of State for the Minister of State of Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachiku, is unhappy with the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mr. Mekanti Baru, and he's not hiding it. Well, let's take a look at the allegations that is set against the GMD in a letter that he wrote to the president. He's talking about how he's frustrated about some of the conduct of the minister. He's written to the president, Muhammadu Buhari, urging him to take urgent actions on what he calls insubordination. Kachiku said he wrote the viral August 30 letter to Mr. Buhari after failed efforts to have a one-on-one appointment with the president at the State House. These are some of the allegations in that letter. Frustration over appointment to see president. It was kept off the loop in appointments made by the GMD. And also, he said the GMD made awarded contracts by NNPC without due process. He also alleged that the GMD is high-handed in some of his dealings and is insubordinate. And he's also said that there's a fear factor in the NNPC because a lot of people are afraid that if they talk, the GMD will discipline them. And those are the allegations there. Let's discuss this now. Joining me here in the studio is Senator Shehu Sani from Kaduna State, a member of the All Progressives Congress, and a former presidential advisor, Mr. Akin Osuntokun. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Let me begin with you, Senator. It looks so much that the Senate has become sort of arbiter in some of these very hot issues in the land. First and foremost, this one between the letter written by the Minister of State and the issues against the GMD. How does this come to you, knowing full well that you're a member of the APC?
Well, first of all, today there was a motion raised on the floor of the Senate by Senator Anyanwu from Imo State. And that motion clearly revealed the level of rot, the shenanigans and the corruption that has been part and parcel of daily operations within the NNPC. And now, part of the prayer that the Senate resolved at was the fact that we need to investigate all these allegations. And you know that in the last 24 hours, the press have been awash with a leaked memo from the Minister of State, and putting all those things into consideration, there was the need for the Senate to have a special committee that will go down to this matter and see the veracity or the fallacy of these allegations. First of all, the allegations are weighty in the very sense that there were points to the fact that contracts were awarded without following due process, and that is a grievous thing to do. And secondly, there was this allegation of high-handedness and insubordination. And there is what that memo also referred to as fear culture. As a responsible parliament, we can't just allow such allegations to simply be read on paper. Investigation needs to be made, and the government needs to be brought to book on issues like this. The NNPC has for a very long time been bedeviled by all sorts of allegations. And being the vertebrae of Nigeria's economy, we can't in any way possible allow such things to simply go without being addressed. And that was the reason for setting up that committee. And I believe the leadership of that committee will do a very thorough job, and they are given, I think, 2 weeks to report back, and so that Nigerians will come to know what is really happening there.
I mean, I will come back to you, Senator, on some of the happenings. This is not the first letter that is going to be leaked. There's one with your friend, the governor of Kaduna State, also written and was leaked. Mr. Osuntokun, you have worked in the corridors of power, especially at the presidency. You know how these things work. When a minister says he is frustrated, he's been trying to see the president, of which he is the minister, the junior minister to the president, who in principle is the minister of petroleum. What does this really mean? What is happening? In your mind, what do you think is happening in the corridor of power?
Well, it's chaos. You know, there's an element of being a chaotic government and or dysfunctional. That is where offices and individuals are not performing their functions as expected, but actually doing it in a counterproductive way. Now, of course, there are so many. It's not if it is, you know, an isolated instance. You can, although this is bad enough, but also look at the case of the acting chairman of the EFCC, that is perennially at the Senate, where an appointee of the president, the DGSSS, writes against the nomination made by the president himself. So you take all this together, and the picture you see is that of chaos. And there is a part explanation for that, you know, which is open to the public, and that is the physical indisposition of the president, is especially in the past 1 year.
But the president is well now and is back.
But you see, it has piled up. You cannot make up for the time. For the better part of the past 1 year, he seems to have not been at his desk. And even when he's at home, but I'm just speaking factually. We know that he's not performing at the peak of health. I mean, this is what we read in the newspapers. He may not be able to attend council meetings and so on and so forth. But it can be better managed. So all these kind of things are also they are fallout of the physical indisposition of the president. Members of his presidency, quite a number of them would take advantage of it, exploit it to their own personal advantage or whatever, to the detriment of the presidency. Now you have a minister. What this says is very damning on the presidency. You know, that you cannot see the president. He wrote this letter in August, I think. And before he wrote that letter, maybe some months he had been waiting to see the president. He could not see him. To brief him on such an important segment, the most crucial, economic anchor of the country. So now you see, and then again, go back to the beginning. Right? What was the reason in the first instance for removing him as GMD? Remember, there was the president who appointed him as the GMD of NNPC when he came in. And barely a year after, he was removed. Now, first and foremost, at that time, I was at a loss as to why would this be the reason. Okay.
All right, Mr. Ojuntokun, we need to take a breather. But you will tell us how easy is it for a minister to see a president in the cabinet? And the senator will also be talking to us and the efforts of the Senate in this one. More analysis and insights into this very crucial topic when we return. Stay with us, everyone.
And the refineries. They also shortlist companies that get allocation of products, lifting of crude oil, and importation of products, thus giving undue advantage to the in-house company, even where it lacks the capacity and requisite requirements to do what it's doing today. Also aware of the general lack of transparency and level playing field in favor of Duke Oil to leave products without payment as against its competitors in the sector. Further aware that these have combined to make Duke Oil the highest money earner and at the same time the highest money waster because of the massive corruption in the way and manner they transact business. Also concerned that the net effect of the above arrangement is that NNPC and by extension Nigeria earns less than otherwise it would have if the process is open and transparent, where products are sold differently to indigenous international oil traders. Further concerned that the money so far earned by NNPC Trading Limited through its subsidiaries such as Duke Oil remains only in the knowledge of NNPC officials.
To include, investigate the allegations made against the GMD of NNPC by the Honorable Minister of State of Petroleum Resources as contained in his leaked letter to Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Again, these committees should take these two issues very seriously. They are matters that really go to the root of what we have committed to Nigerians in stamping out corruption, and they must be investigated and the reports brought back to us as soon as possible, and we hope that the quality of the report will continue to meet the standard that we have set in this 8th Senate.
The Channels 24 app means you'll always be in touch with the news. Get the latest local and international stories on the go. And there's our social media platforms for news from around the world. Watch the news live and play videos that matter to you. You can also check the eyewitness section to report events around you. Just click on the eyewitness icon and follow the instructions to upload your content. Channels 24 app, the news at your fingertips.
Welcome back, everyone. It was a letter meant only for the eyes of the president, but now not only Nigerians, the whole of the world now can read and digest the letter from a minister of the president that is so frustrated about virtually everything that happens under his nose. Some of those things that he said he cannot even control. If you take an NPC out of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, there's perhaps only resources left. Well, let's get talking again. I still have my guest here in the studio, Mr. Akin Oshuntokun, a former presidential aide who has been giving us benefits of his insight and experience at the villa, and also Senator Shehu Sani, a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Let me come to you quickly, Senator Sani. When a minister comes forward to talk to some of the frustrations that we've seen with him, he did mention nepotism. This is not the first time we're hearing this kind of thing under this very administration. Are you afraid of this kind of incident and this kind of talk, whether true or false?
Well, it is natural when you belong to a system and you are part of a government, and you try to bring the attention of your principal to something going wrong for which he is either not aware or he is deliberately ignoring it. And well, it is difficult to differentiate between an open letter and a leaked memo. I think the difference is that this one is called a memo, but I think the author of that letter deliberately want to bring to spotlight what is happening in the NNPC. And the content of that letter and the allegations raised also raise a number of issues, not only about the NNPC, but about the whole structure of governance as it exists today, in the very sense that if a minister of state can outrightly said it's been difficult for him to access channels to which he can present his issues. And I think there is a system disconnect there. And it is simply given credence to the fact that there exists a government within a government. There are individuals that have formed a shield, a cycle.
So it is true when you said hyenas and the jackals that you made reference to. So the hyenas and the jackals are truly existing.
Well, Kachuku's letter, and I think the issues he is raising in every possible way is pointing to the fact that there are a cycle of power within power itself. And in some cases they call them kitchen cabinet, but this is not a kitchen cabinet. This is about some persons who have surrounded the president and are exercising power to themselves and to their advantage, and also manipulating power for their own personal interests.
Senator, do you think the president is aware of this situation that you're talking about?
Well, of the firm belief that if he is aware of this, he will have taken action. And if he is not aware of this, and this has been brought to the public for, and then he can now take action on it. But if he said he will not take an action on this issue, then it will certainly stain the integrity and reputation
I'll,
of the government.
I'll come to you on what this means for your party for the future, because you actually did not talk about the issue of nepotism. You left that out, Senator, maybe intentionally. But let me come to you, Mr. Oshuntokun. What do you see in all of these happenings? You've been at the corridors of power. Just how easy is it to see a president, a minister to see a president?
Well, that's a curious question. You are supposed to see him regularly. I mean, if the president is working for the country, you as a minister, what you are doing is a delegated authority and power. You are acting for him.
But is it possible? Is it possible that a minister falls out with the president and a connection or the line of communication is cut off? Is it possible?
You are not supposed to personalize the office. There should be no falling out. If there is a falling out that warrants the president not seeing a minister, then the minister should go. I mean, those are not. There is no personalization of government business. But let me say something which I think is very important. You know, if you look at the NNPC is very vulnerable to corruption. It's opaque, you know. And, you know, from what revelations that we have had, you know, from the operators of the former, the past government, especially the Minister of Resources. Look, 60% of Nigerian corruption takes place at NNPC. It has been my contention that anybody who wants to seriously address corruption in Nigeria should privatize NNPC. The government should completely be absolved of management of that place. You get the tax or royalty or whatever at the end of the day. Because you see, look at what is happening now. Look, if Mr. Kachukwu can put what he has put into writing, then look, the implication is that what is really happening is 20 times worse.
Are you worried when it was removed at first?
Of course I was.
As the GMD?
Yes, of course I was. And the reason I was political, you know. Political in the sense that, look, I thought that part of, you know, a political sensitivity, right? If I were the president, political sensitivity for me would require me to appoint somebody from that region as the GMD of NNPC.
From the southeast, or from the south?
Yeah, from the yeah. That's.
Do you think there is nepotism happening?
Of course. I mean, the man put it in writing. He said so, that there is nepotism happening. He went to the extent of saying contracts were irregularly awarded, maybe inflated, and those are serious allegations. And the more serious, the gravity of it is that it is somebody who knows, is an insider, is somebody who it is his job. Shehu said they were investigating. Will he be telling a lie against himself? I was managing director of News Agency of Nigeria. If I write about that, that is authoritative.
All right, let's close the program now. Senator Shehu Sani, just in about 30 seconds, tell us, what is the implication of this for your party? A party that says they want to fight corruption, and when this comes to the limelight, implications for your party, quickly, please.
Well, for the very fact that issues like this have been brought to the public knowledge, now it behoves on the government to take a very serious action on it. And it is not about, the problem is not about the issue coming to spotlight, is whether an action will be taken on it or not. So if the president refuses to act on it, that is when he will be in every way criticized. But if he takes an action on it, it shows that the party, the government is in tune with the spirit of accountability and probity. All
right. Many thanks, gentlemen, for coming on the program. That's how far we can go. Mr. Akin Oshuntokun, always a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you.
Senator Shehu Sani, thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you.
And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for being part of it. I'm Shehu Akin Baloye. Bye for now, everyone.